You are listening to the Voice of Bold Business Radio. I am your host, Jess Dewell of Red Direction. Today, you are listening to The Power of a Plan. Today, we are talking about project management, unorganized people, and problem solving in the moment. Not in that order, though. So stay tuned because it is you, it is me, and it is a story plus an opinion plus some action for you to consider and practice to improve your personal efficiency and the efficiency of running longer term projects. We'll be right back after this.
Welcome to the Voice of Bold Business, the show that provides everything smart leaders need to evaluate situations, build relationships, and create solutions. Jessica Dewell candidly talks about the skills necessary to build tenacity and do more with less. And now, here's Jessica.
All right, so we've got to start with the story. And the reason we have to start with the story today is because it lends itself to all of the unknowns that come up when we're running projects, when we are experiencing, we think we're in the flow and something comes along and stops us in our tracks, when nothing seems to be going right and everything is going clunk, 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 clunk into place, and it's difficult as we're going along. The story is, as many people in the United States and many people visiting the United States, I went to see the total solar eclipse. I live in Boulder, Colorado, as you know, and we went up to Scottsbluff, Nebraska. It was our landing point, and from there we went to Agate National Monument. So here we are. The first night, we're going to Sterling, Colorado as our first stop. We get down the interstates a decent amount, and all of a sudden I have no cell phone service. Well, this I was prepared for. So ahead of time, I had bought a map of Nebraska and a map of Colorado. I had the navigation on my car, because if you don't have cell signal, your wonderful audio voice for Google or Apple doesn't work. No problem. We get to the hotel. We have Wi-Fi. I check in. I do everything that I need to do. But I really only got half checked in because my husband actually didn't receive any of the texts that I sent him letting him know we arrived in the place we were at. So here's a whole other story going on, right? He's worried, can't get a hold of us, doesn't know where we're at. We have not communicated to him. He's a little worried about that. So we get up the next day really early. Sterling is still many hours from where we want to go to see the eclipse. So we're up at 5 o'clock in the morning. We're in the car by 5:30. And this is me and my 6-year-old son. He's having a snack, thinking it's great. He's the cutest kid in the world. He goes, "Mama, I have never been up this early, and it's so cool. I'm going to stay awake until we see the sunrise, and then I'm going to go to sleep." Okay. Well, it wasn't much of a sunrise because it was incredibly foggy. However, he got to see what he wanted to see, and then he went to sleep. And so here I am driving. We drive up to Scottsbluff and head north. Well, the entire time we get to Scottsbluff and we're changing directions. I want to check in with somebody, put fuel in the car, take a pit stop, and we have no cell phone service and there's no free Wi-Fi around. Okay, no problem. I knew at the park we would not have cell phone service. So I'm like, well, it's all right. It is what it is. I'll check in later tonight. So no cell phone service in this big city that's supposed to have cell phone service for the service provider that I have. We looked at their map before I left. And I'm like, well, okay. So Siri and Google Maps will not work because I'm glad I've got them programmed in. It downloaded all the information to my phone. We're good to go. I know where I need to go because I have my maps. And then it occurred to me, oh, how cool this navigation in my car has everything downloaded. I just need to get it something that it has in there and we're good to go. So off we went, totally disconnected from any communication. I'm not able to connect with my friend Eric Isaacson, who we were going to meet and then join some other people. Randomly on the side of the road someplace, we had picked an intersection of 2 streets to meet at. That's very brave, I think. So here we go. We get up there. Sure enough, us and 100 other people thought that intersection was going to be a great place to watch the eclipse. So here we are trying to meet a friend. And I'm like, oh, so Carter's helping me look and I'm looking nowhere. So we park our car, we get out and we walk around. And sure enough, we come around this bend after parking our car and there was Eric. So pre-planning, pre-communication, understanding exactly where we were going to meet allowed me with no internet service to show up in the middle of farmland in Nebraska to find somebody. I didn't know. And I know some of you might be listening going, oh yeah, I remember the days we did that all the time. It's quite fun and it's worth it. And if you're of my generation or even younger than my 39 years old, try it sometime because it's very empowering to know what pre-planning can actually do and how to allow that pre-planning to create a space for spontaneity and ensuring that I haven't talked to my friend Eric since the day before. But he was exactly where he said he was going to be, and I was exactly where I said I was going to be, and we found each other. So here we are. Eric parks his car, hops in my car with me and Carter, and we drive off to a farm. We find some other people that had come from all over, another Boulder couple, somebody from Minneapolis, and another couple from Indiana, where Eric is also from. By this time, neither one of us have cell phone coverage, so Eric had very little out there. They didn't know we were coming. We knew exactly where they were going to be. We had pre-planned it ahead of time. And through conversations, we went to this farm where they were letting people come and set up. And we drove around. And sure enough, we thought like this guy, Steve, who's very cool, by the way. And we found them in this field of hundreds of people with others just like us that wanted a really great space to watch this eclipse. It sounds like everything went off with a hitch, which, by the way, it did. It completely and utterly did go off with a hitch, even not having cell phone coverage, even not being able to communicate with people because all of the planning that was done, all of the communication that was done before we ever left, and the communication that we had up until the moment each one of us knew may have little to no cell phone service. And so we got to watch the eclipse, and it was amazing. I know, right? This is not a story about what the eclipse was like. It was the story about the trip to the eclipse. But it gets better because in addition to watching this shadow of the moon come right at us at 1,500 miles an hour, cover the sun completely, being able to look at the sun and see the sun shining around the moon, seeing 4 planets there, having the temperature drop so much that it didn't matter how many clothes I had, it still was not enough for a summer day in Nebraska. Just being with really amazing, cool people made it fantastic. And Carter was having the time of his life, and you could just see him. The eclipse was coming, and you can feel that energy, and you go, oh yeah, I'm a grown-up. I got that energy. Oh yeah, I'm a grown-up. I got this under control. Well, at 6, with that amount of energy that was happening just from the event itself, the sun, the moon, the earth, and that energy that was coming, you combine that with all of the energy of all of the people that were around us. Wow. Carter was amazingly, he was a chatterbox. How do you want to do this? How are you doing? Can I get you anything like this? Oh my gosh, isn't this the most exciting thing? Hey, will you come do this with me? I want to share this with you. I looked at him at one point and I said, Carter, can you feel all the energy around? Because I know I can. And he goes, yeah, I can. And one of the other guys that was with us in our group said, I can feel it, and I'm barely holding myself together. I'm surprised these little kids are not exploding. And it's true. It's true. There's so much energy that you can feel. We had a whole bunch of experiments going on. We had food. We had conversation. There was a drone, which was really exciting for Carter and everybody else too. How amazing to be in such a group of people and experience that. I've only experienced partial eclipses before this, and it is incredibly different, a partial eclipse to a full eclipse, even though you can still see some, right? You can still see some and feel some. The magnitude of the experience was very different. Okay, so that's all there is about the eclipse, because then there's more. You've already got the thing, we do a lot of planning, and we have a lot of communication up until the very last moment where we start acting, since we don't know what necessarily is going to happen when we start acting. And we know the key pieces so that we can get what we need, where we need, and who will be in those locations, and who is responsible, and who has what, so that we can all work together and make it through the unknowns that come up along the way. The next piece was Carter was doing his thing, and he was in and out of the car, and he smashed his finger in the car door. And all of a sudden, I hear him happy, I hear him running, I hear him excited. He's getting something, and he's telling me he's getting something, and I'm saying, okay, and then all of a sudden, there's blood-curdling screams. Thankfully, I was with the most amazing people in the world, so between all of us, I was able to stay calm, get what needed done, and, we're 30 miles away from the nearest town, and everybody has been leaving. This was after the eclipse, about an hour after the eclipse, so there's still thousands of people leaving this area, heading right back to that town. So I'm like, okay. So we check it out. We do the best we can. We get it bandaged up, and Carter lays down and goes to sleep. All he says to me before he goes to sleep is, I want to sleep until we go to the Agate National Monument and the agate fossil beds. And I said, oh, okay. I let him sleep for a while, and we say goodbye to everybody. And he's like, so are we going to the fossil beds? And I'm like, sure. Okay. So we get out there. His fingers all bandaged up. He's hurting. He's just breathing. He's got himself as in control as he can be. And here I am. I'm a really worried mom going, we might as well come here first before we go to town because everybody else is going to town. And we were there, for 20 or 30 minutes. We watched a cool movie. We saw some cool things. We got to experience the fossils. We did not take a hike. It's the only thing I'm a little sad about. We take Eric back to his car when we're done. And I'm like, okay, so now I have to find this urgent care place because I'm pretty sure his finger's okay. He's doing all right. But we were in a field. We were playing in the dirt. We were doing all these kinds of things. And there was blood. We've got to get to some sort of an urgent care center just to get it figured out. And I was like, I know there's a hospital because we saw hospital signs all the way here. And I'm like, well, how do I find this? I have no cell coverage in the town and I have no cell coverage here. Aha. Our cool navigations in our cars have things like urgent care and food and points of interest like agate fossil beds all programmed in. So we searched and we found an urgent care place and we went. We're just waiting, right? That's all you do is you wait and you get seen. So we get through that process. Carter got a fist bump. Everything was good. Nothing extra had to be done. And the doctor was awesome. He goes, fist bump. And then he says, welcome to the club. We've all done it. And some of us have done this more than once. And I laughed. And Carter immediately, all any extra tension he had about the worry about what might be going on dissipated. With everything that happened in the day, I was like, well, we got to get some pizza. And since I had no cell phone coverage and we did not know if the Airbnb that we were going to be at would have an actual phone to use, I used my wonderful map in my navigation in my car to find us Papa John's Pizza. And we went over there and we get the pizza, we get in the car, and I spy a Culver's. Now, there are very few things that I absolutely love in this world. Concretes happen to be one of them. And we don't have a Culver's around here. So it's not like I can just go get one when I want. So I told Carter, I said, we're going to go to Culver's. So I type in the address of the house that we're going to into this car destination, and it can't find it. It is not part of its map system. I have no cell phone coverage. So I'm like, oh, I can get to a library. So I get into a library. I look up a library because they're going to have free Wi-Fi. I can at least get directions to the house I'm going to from a library, right? So interesting steps in the road, not smooth. We know what we need to do and we know how we can get it done so we can get to where we need to go. We're in Culver's and this little voice goes next to me, sometimes these places have Wi-Fi. And I'm like, what? So sure enough, I'm on my phone in the drive-thru thinking we got to just get home. Carter's tired. He's hurting. We need to get bed. It's dinner time. And we want to settle down after this amazing, beautiful day with this very unexpected event that took a lot of physical energy as well. Sure enough, there's free internet at Culver's. So here I am in the drive-thru going, can I get Siri? Siri, can I get Siri? Because when I can get directions on Siri on my iPhone, even when I lack service, the entire map had been downloaded and the entire directions had been downloaded to my phone or became available offline somehow. So I gotta love Apple for that because that was like our saving grace of not having to drive all the way across Scottsbluff to be able to come all the way back because the house was like 5 minutes from where we were. I get the internet, I get the latest thing. Excellent. So something is always there because I knew which tools I had and I knew when I could be able to use them and I knew what to look for in the event I needed one of those tools. All those things came from thinking ahead of time to starting this whole process. So we get there, we eat our ice cream before we eat our pizza. Because we had Wi-Fi there, we checked in with everybody, we did a few things, and then we went to bed and slept, and we woke up the next day. We did a couple of fun things. We went to Chimney Rock, and we went to the Oregon Trail. Then we came home through having zero cell phone service. So I was up the night before we left, right, when we got to the house with the internet connection, and I'm looking at my maps and I'm looking online and I'm saying, which ways do I want to go? And I didn't want to go the way that the navigation in the car or that Siri, if I had had internet connection, would have wanted to go. So we got to see a couple of other cool features in the land because we decided to go off the beaten path and take the steps to do that. Key takeaways. plan ahead. And the importance of planning is very underrated. And when we do it, it really works out. And this is a perfect example of a situation where you think you're going to have limited information, but you don't know really how limited you will have information as you're going step by step through a project. And we were gone for multiple days, and I'm talking about projects here that last months. It's very easy to go, oh, we'll just wait and see when we get there. Tell me, and I want to know. I want to hear your comments. I want an email from you. I want tweets from you. How much success do you have on a given basis when you say, well, we'll deal with it when we get there, and you still end on time and on budget? I'd say that success percentage is pretty low. It is for me. And I love dealing with chaos, and I love solving problems, and I'm totally fine only doing things the most that I know, knowing that I know how to problem solve and we can do it when we get there. Well, in the event that I waited too long in this particular trip, I would not have met up with my friend. I would have not met these very cool people. I would have not had the experience that I experienced because it came out differently than I wanted. And so that planning is a very key piece, and understanding what is available and what is not available resource-wise. Here's what I know I have. Here's what I don't know I have. And here's what I know I do not have. And just that information alone, armed going into situations where we don't necessarily know the outcome and what's going to happen, which is, by the way, every day of our life, because none of us, well, how about this? Very few of us see the future exactly the way that it's going to happen. We can show up with each of those pieces. The reason I wanted to start with that story is twofold. One, it's a good story about preparation and planning, having a good time, and dealing with not only having all the pieces fall into place for the good time, but also being able to deal with an unexpected situation that totally changes the tone and the tide of the experience that you're having, the path that you're on, right? Shutting your finger in the door is pretty well up there. I'm thinking about project management because realistically, that's what this story is an illustration of on a very small scale. This is a 3-day thing with 10 people that were communicating and being able to put this together and make this group get together to happen for this event, the eclipse. In our businesses, there are projects that are 3 to 4 days long that we do not plan weeks in advance for, and everybody does not have their own set of things that they're responsible for, and we can get through them. Yet when they scale up, when they're larger, when they're longer, when they involve more money, when they involve more people. So I'm thinking about taking a service and turning it into a product. I'm thinking about adding a new market and developing who these customers are in this new market. Let's go with creating a product from a service. And this happens all the time. What we find in terms of like our unique selling position are what makes us different. Our goals, our values, the actions we take, the way that we do things. And by the way that we do things are a potential products or product additions that we can offer to our customers. We do it, people experience this goodness, and when you put a name to it, we do this for you, it now has a different kind of value. And I can give you an example. This is when I worked at Digital River many years ago. One of the things that we did when we delivered electronic software was just let people download the software and make sure it was available to them because they had purchased it. Well, we just did that, and customers loved it and clients loved it. And all of a sudden one day somebody goes, what if we started telling people before they purchased whatever software you're buying, you have the opportunity to have it for you anytime you want after you purchase? Sweet. That's really cool. And then somebody else goes, now that we've said that out loud, by the way, this was Pete Olson's idea. So Pete, if you're ever listening to this, you still get credit in my mind for coming up with this great idea for the entire company of Digital River. Pete Olson came up with that idea. Why don't we just tell people we're already doing this for them? And somebody else goes, and why don't we put a value to that? And it was like $2 or $3. Forever, you have peace of mind for $3. You can get this software you downloaded now anytime you want in the future. Wow. And we started talking about that. And so not only did we state what we were doing that created something that was different than our competitors in the same space, we also put a value to it and created a revenue stream out of it for the entire company. Pretty darn cool, Pete Olson, for having that idea. I know there are things in your company that you do. Some things you would charge for and some things you don't. However, Maybe you could charge for more. Maybe you start using what you don't charge for and create a message for it. This product that you have, this add-on value, this messaging and positioning. I bring that up because sometimes there's this trend right now, and it doesn't matter what kind of business you are. There's this trend right now. It seems to be a lasting trend. So it is a way to build product, is to sell an idea, take people's money, and then build the product. There is nothing wrong with that. The biggest upside I see to something like that is you really know what you're developing is exactly what your market wants. In my opinion, the downside to that is you're totally relying on external people to tell you what they want. Setting the stage and being first and having something that is lasting doesn't always come from that way because it's never different enough. Taking what people think they want and turning it into a product is just more of what they think they want. And they will buy it and they will use it and they may see benefit from it. However, looking at the way, I don't know if you remember Ken from Continuum when we were talking a few episodes back. His whole company watches how people work and then designs products around them, like actual physical products. And I have to admit, when I was hearing him talk about that, it piqued my interest. And it made me think, how do I work? And how I work is I have a service. I deliver that service. I say what the service includes, what the outcomes are, all those things. And then once I have 2 or 3 people go through it, I'm like, good, I have a proof of concept. I can tell the world about this now. And it's because it comes from my knowledge, my basis, my programs that I am building for Red Direction. And then they can then become productized is what I call it. So we have something that works. We know people walk away from it. We know that there's value there before we tell the rest of the world that we have something that they want. And I know this is tough. It's tough because when we bootstrap, it's better to sell ahead of time. Yet, when we sell ahead of time, I think we're much more restricted. I think we're restricted to ensure that we take the advice and information and desires of the people who bought it because they bought it and they told you what they wanted, that's what you've got to deliver to them. I think that's harder than knowing, here's what I do. Here's what my company does. This is the service we provide. And here's a different way to look at it. Or here's something that we've been doing that we want to turn into a product that nobody else in our competitive space is doing. And test it out on a few people, get a prototype and go, yeah, here's what we need to make this happen. This is actually something they really like. This is something they don't really like. So how do we want to position it long-term in our organization? Now, I'm not saying give this product away for free. Even my baseline to benchline product, I put it together, I spent the time working on it, and I gave it a value. And I sell it for that value. And we're just now at the point I've had enough people go through the program that we're getting ready to put it on the Red Direction website as a product because I know the process works, because I know that what I said I was going to deliver, delivered, and I know that everybody that went through it got what they needed in their own way from it. So very different perspective. I'm a big proponent of proofs of concept. Proofs of concept save a lot of money. It takes time and energy to plan an idea that is communicated about. It takes time and energy to get enough feedback to be able to incorporate it into the idea to create this proof of concept to sell to these people. So even though you don't spend time making a product, you are spending time getting to a place you could make a product. And both of those things cost money. So whether you do it with or without other people is totally up to you. Now, I'm also not saying create your proof of concept in a vacuum. That doesn't work. No, because then you're right. You don't know. You might have an audience of 10 in the whole world. And when you have an audience of 10 in the whole world, that's just not a sustainable, viable product, even though it solves a very important problem for those 10 people. Which is where this looking at our business internally, what do we have to offer? How are we doing it? What are the things that we're doing? And then looking at it externally, what are our competition doing? How are our customers actually using our product? And what do they say they want? It's up to us to think about and feel through what's not being said, that space between those 3 things, and go, so what's there? What do these people need? And it's a skill. It is a skill we can learn. I did not right away know that every single one of the services that I offered could be a product. I knew 1 or 2 of them could be. And then I thought, oh, well, it's going to be that no matter where they come or whatever we come up with, I know I will be able to help create plan and strategy and bring people together around whatever comes up. Okay, that's what I thought. There's way more in there when the team gets into a project with a client. There's more and more and more. More important than a product, and whether you're developing it before or after you sell it, right? Okay, you know where my position is. Yours may be different. No problem. No problem at all. The delivery and the follow-through is the most important. Being on time, doing what you said you were going to do, giving the people the outcomes that they requested. As the product grows and changes, whatever we start with usually continues. It may modify a little bit. However, if we always do this one thing, like have access to a support team or access to have questions answered in some way, that really can never go away, because people look at it and they see that as part of the value of whatever you're selling. It's an intangible value, but it's a peace of mind bringer. It's something that they know they get. And if they're already your client and that goes away, they're going to feel like you took something away from them. We don't want customers to feel like we're taking anything away from them. We also want customers to know that we are continuously improving. If that means we discontinue a whole product, that's very different than taking away part of the deliverable, part of the value of what they've been getting before. I just saw the other day a conference, and I'm not going to name this conference, that has been running for the last 6 years. It got really big, and the person who created it loved every single one of them, and then she burnt out. I don't know the reasons for the burnout. I'm going to use that as an example also of some clients that I see. They do what they do, they run, they build, they have this great time providing this service, putting together a product, running a team, and as soon as it scales to a certain point, there's this, and all the air goes away. All this input is gone. And I have to say, that point of burnout, I think they saw it coming and they thought that it just wouldn't happen to them. These leaders, regardless of the amount of team, the size of the team, the quality of the team, I don't think they thought it would happen to them. Delivery and follow through is really important. Delivery and follow through not only for the customer, because we want the customer to see and hear what we said we were going to do and receive what we said we were going to do and experience what we said we were going to do as a company. We have to think about ourselves and our teams. And the other side of that of delivery and follow through is when we don't think ahead of time, when we don't have some sort of a plan with high point milestones, when we choose to fly by the seat of our pants all the time, and we don't look at the resources we have and we just figure it out when we get there, people will burn out. People will not find it valuable and fun anymore. And it's because we all work differently. Some of us work from a plan, and we need that plan to continue. Some of us work from structure. Okay, so I know these are the general steps, and we're going to be filling in each of the points of these steps along the way. Some of us work from big picture, which means we see the end and we're taking action each step of the way to get there. All of them are necessary to deliver a product on time and on budget that meets the expectations of our customers, as well as the emotional and mental and contribution needs and desires of us as leaders and our teams that we lead. I have to admit, two big things that I see is people who know more than they think they know. So they stop and they wait. They stop and they wait. And this stopping and this waiting actually makes them late on their deliverable or reduces the potential outcome of what they're giving to their customers. They're undervaluing themselves. When we know more than we think we do, we tend to let everybody else think that we know less than we actually do. And that's a big problem, because when we do that, we're setting an expectation, aren't we? We are. We want to set the expectation that's correct. We don't want to oversell. I get that. I totally get that. We also don't want to undersell. Those of us who, you're listening to me and you're like, oh, yeah, I do know more and I don't let people know, or I'm afraid that they will react this way, or they're not going to believe me, or whatever. Okay, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the reason is. What I'm going to say here is it's this place to stretch. It's this place to move forward. It's this place to stand in uncomfortable and go, yes, I know a lot. Let me see how much I actually know. And I'm going to test myself. Think about what questions people are going to send back my way or have for me, or how do I poke holes in this idea? And sure enough, you're going to know, oh, I actually know more than I thought I knew. Okay? Because when we recognize how much we actually know and we credit ourselves for the knowledge we're bringing to our team, to a product which makes a business thrive, we are setting the expectation and an example for others to do the same. So we're not taking risks that the company, right? We're not taking risks that the company bears the brunt of. We're taking a personal risk that increases our confidence, that increases our willingness to act, and that increases our ability to do what we said we were going to do. I want you to think about that. I want to know how you guys do that, okay? It's really important that we recognize we know more than we think we do, and that when we take the time to put that thinking and that knowledge to use before we start taking action on any sort of a plan, then we're taking advantage of and really encouraging our teams to take risks that have more upside than down. 1, because they're personal risks. 2, because it's us stepping up, showing up more, contributing more. It's us doing those things to be able to stay on the career path that we want. So I'm going to end here with act to plan. Okay, so everything we're talking about, from the first story to this proof of concept in the way you do it, to knowing more than you think you know. Act to plan, that's Red Direction's whole reason for existence. Act to plan, and plan is an acronym, the power to lead, assess, and navigate a profitable business. Thinking time is a very big part of that. And what we're talking about here in every sense, doing the planning before acting in something totally non-work related, then thinking about how we do product development in our businesses. Do we do a prototype? Do we sell an idea and then build a prototype? I think there are pros and cons to both. I think it depends on your risk tolerance and a whole bunch of other things. So if you ever want to talk about that, you know where to find me. But the concept of where do we find these things that we can build and how do we go about building them? Same concept. There's thinking ahead of time. Also, delivery and follow through, and recognizing and taking the personal risk of increasing what we do, stepping into that place of uncomfortable and flying with the uncomfortable to lead by example and to pave the way, the path that we want to take for ourselves in our careers and bring other people along with us. This is the Voice of Bold Business Radio, and you have just listened to program 84, The Power of a Plan. And I have to tell you, I am pleased as punch with how this turned out. You've got your takeaways, you've got your actions. It's something to think about that's different in terms of leading ourselves, leading a team, and leading every part of our business or the part of our business that we are in. You will find all the program notes at voiceofboldbusiness.com/P84. That is voiceofboldbusiness.com/P for program 84. You may also search Power of a Plan. Take what you've got here, step into that uncomfortable, recognize thinking is worth every second we give it, and then we are more prepared to deal with the unknowns along the way. That action and that repetition of those steps are the model that we invite others to step up into for them to go along their career journeys and contribute the way that they want and to see the success that they want in the role they have with us. Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time. Don't forget the power of a plan.
Subscribe at thevoiceofboldbusiness.com and get more information, program notes, and past episodes. Bold leaders approach each situation and focus on action to achieve a higher level of leadership. Jessica Dewell, your business advocate, is the host of the Voice of Bold Business Radio. Thank you for joining us.